That's pretty much what you told me, Tavi. It's like, hey, go watch this movie. I want to know what you think about it. And I came out of it and I was like, I didn't like that, Tavi. And you're like, yeah, same. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic book, anime, music, theatre, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with a H. With me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Sup, Tavi?
Oh, you slipped up. Slipped up a little bit there.
Out of practice, Tavi.
Kaname, foodie. What did you say?
Yeah, whatever I said.
It's a bit early.
Yeah, I'm pretty sleep deprived.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's that's all right. I'm a little bit sleep deprived as well, but that's because I've been playing Black Myth Wukong.
Oh yeah,
probably the most anticipated and at the moment one of the fastest selling single player games of all time.
Pretty divisive launch though, right?
Yeah, pretty divisive. Yeah, it's stupid. Game journalists seem to really hate this game for reasons that I'm not going to get into because I'm sure that there's other. YouTube.
There's people talking about why.
There's lots of people talking about it. Yeah, I think it's stupid, but you know, I think the game, yeah, it's pretty fun.
But you're pro CCP, so that's why you think it's stupid.
yeah, I love Wo Aini Xi Jinping or hail. Yeah.
We're not here to talk about Black Wukong though, Tavi.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about 3 scary movies, 2 bad ones and 1 good one. We're gonna be talking about Trap, Maya, The Drowning Spirit, and Alien Romulus in that order. Yeah, I'll put time codes in if you want to jump around. I think, what are we going to do? Are we going to do spoilers for this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to talk about.
Maybe we'll do spoilers, full spoilers for Trap and Maya, but maybe we'll do a non-spoiler section for Alien Romulus before doing full spoilers.
Yeah.
Because it's the newer of the
newer.
three. Yeah.
The better one. It's
the one we actually care about.
Yeah. Well, we originally were only going to talk about Maya because I wanted to cover it because it is a Vietnamese production. But you seem to really want to talk about Trapped or something. Or
this
Trapped.
is kind of like a one for me, one for you situation. Because I didn't really want to watch Maya. You kind of forced me to watch Maya.
Yeah.
And you didn't really want to watch Trap, so
it's not that I didn't want to watch it. I just thought because you initially said let's talk about it. I was like, nah. It's like it's not really related to usually what we talk to. Even though we've taken a fair bit of liberties on this channel, we do try to cover more Asian media.
Yeah, like Alien Romulus.
Romulus, which is the one where I'm just like, I just want to talk about it because
the one where the Asian actor dies at the start, the first one to go.
That's not even a spoiler. It's in the
trailer as well. It's on the poster.
It's on the poster. Yeah, it's like kill the CCP. Yeah, and that's basically her character anyway. But so
we'll get to
it's interesting because you wanted to talk about Trapped, not necessarily because you liked it either, which I found odd.
Should we talk about Trap then?
Yeah, let's just get straight into Trap. Yeah.
So Trap, from the twisted mind of M. Night Shyamalan. We all know who M. Night Shyamalan is, the Sixth Sense guy. So this film stars, what's his name again?
Josh Hartnett.
That's right, Josh Hartnett. This film
stars... M. Night Shyamalan at one point.
Of course, because it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, so of course it has M. Night Shyamalan in it at a point. But no, it stars Josh Hartnett. He plays a father taking his daughter to a concert, a pop concert of a artist that she idolizes. But then during the concert, he starts to notice there's a pretty big police presence. And he questions one of the staff members at the concert and finds out that the concert itself is a trap to catch a serial killer. So the FBI or the authorities have received intel that this serial killer is going to be at this concert, and they've created this trap to get him. But then twist, Josh Hartnett is the serial killer. So he is the butcher that they're trying to catch. So
Is that even a twist though?
no, well, it's in the trailer. It's in the trailer. That's
It's in the trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
So is that
But-
supposed? Is that the Shyamalan twist? Is that the twist?
Well,
Because this movie has kind of a lack of a twist.
I mean, yeah, we are going to talk full spoilers about this film, and so like, yeah. I guess there is no twist outside of that twist. Because
that
it's
the
a
twist?
Shyamalan film. You know, when I saw this trailer, I assumed that the final twist would be that the daughter is also the serial killer. You know, that I think a lot of people kind of had that take watching the trailer of the film.
I don't know. That'd be a little bit too stupid though, if that
I
really
mean, this
happened.
film is a pretty stupid film to me,
Yeah,
which is not
yeah.
outside of the wheelhouse of M. Night Shyamalan films. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's weird that this film doesn't have like an additional twist outside of the one that's shown in the trailer.
It's quite straightforward.
Yeah, I
if
mean,
anything.
I did enjoy like maybe the first half of this film. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that was in the concert.
Yeah.
The concert part of this film really reminded me of like a Hitman level. You know, where he's like kind of walking around, like trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. And he's just like in this environment that's filled with NPCs that are offering like loud and clunky exposition.
Oh, yeah. Exposition. Yeah.
It's like he's talking to that staff, and the staff guy is like, "There's no way out. Except, of course, if you take the back entrance."
Yeah. It's Shyamalan movies have not been known for their subtle exposition and their
And
dialogue.
this film is a really Shyamalan film. It's like full of weird acting and weird dialogue, like really unnatural stuff. It's full of plot conveniences. There's a lot of like extreme close-ups of people.
Yeah. He really likes that angle where it's kind of like a front. It's like a front shot where it is a close-up. The framing is just weird, but I actually don't mind that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen a Shyamalan movie in a long while. I can't even remember the last Shyamalan movie that I watched because I kind of stopped watching them after Signs.
Right.
I didn't watch the remake of Avatar. I didn't watch The Happening. So I haven't seen any of the newer ones like
You didn't watch After Earth. Yeah, okay.
I didn't watch Old. I didn't watch.
Did you watch Split?
I didn't watch Split. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. And Glass, you haven't watched Glass, I assume.
Yeah, I haven't watched Glass.
Okay,
yeah,
it's
no.
been a while since you watched a Shyamalan film.
Yeah. He's not my favorite director,
Yeah.
but I know about his quirks.
Yeah.
And this movie is weirdly average, as I told you off air, because I think, like yourself, I actually really enjoyed the first half of the movie. All the concert stuff and the sneaking and stalking around is quite fun. And I don't mind weird, hokey acting dialogue because it's kind of like a stylistic choice, I reckon.
I think in a Shyamalan film, when it works, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And that's fine as well.
Yeah. My big issue is that, like, I sometimes harp on about like the intensity of a movie, whether it should be more violence or not. And I don't think this movie needed to be, I guess, super gory or violent, but it needed to have like some form of impact because the premise is quite strong, I think. And he is essentially a serial killer, like the butcher. And there's a part where he's talking to that NPC like staff member, like getting the t-shirt, and he's like, "Oh, look," and this is a really plot convenient. Oh, my friend just happens to have a footage or photo of like one of the bodies, and he just like he shows him through the phone, but we don't see it because the movie can't go beyond like a certain point because it's a PG-13 movie, and I think a lot of that really holds this movie back. Like even showing like an iota of something would have just added to the stakes of it, but it just seemed like when it seems to be going into that realm where it could have that impact, it just doesn't. So I didn't really feel anything through the movie. I think Josh Hartnett does a really good job at this role. I really enjoyed his character.
Yeah,
he's really good in the movie.
He's having a really fun time.
Yeah. And I really like the relationship between him and his daughter because I found that very sincere to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, the daughter does a good job as well, I think.
Yeah. He genuinely like loves his daughter, and I found that like quite sweet. But then the second half of the movie is like out of the concert, and it just falls apart for me.
Yeah, it kind of unravels the longer it goes on for, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Like the movie just kind of keeps going.
It just keeps going. Yeah,
Which is, I guess, it's not what I expected.
yeah. But it's like, 'cause a lot of this movie is not what you, because he plays around with a few different tropes, like. The antagonist is basically the protagonist, and you are watching all these people outside of our knowledge try to catch him because they're essentially the ones that are trying to stop him. So it's a pretty interesting like device to play around with in a story sense, but it still feels like very average. Somehow it just feels average watching this movie. It feels samey, even though it's actually quite structurally different. It just kind of sucked the second half, and I got pretty bored, and it's not a long movie.
I think it becomes a bit too repetitive because the first half of the film is like him getting out of situations, right? And there's a good level of tension in them because you're just going into this movie, right? But then as it continues, it keeps going through this loop of him getting into a situation and then getting out of the situation, and it's like this constant loop that just doesn't seem to end. Like this movie felt like it had 3 endings. When he gets out of the concert, and then when he escapes his house for the first time, and then when he captures like the star again in the limousine, but then they both escape the limousine. And then there's a final ending where he goes to confront his wife, who turns out was the one that set him up that whole time. So I think it just went on for a bit too long and had a couple too many endings.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't mind plot contrivances as long as like the story and like what you're trying to say is interesting or if it's fun. But I think there's just a little bit too many in this movie.
Sometimes, plot armor kind of saves him. Like even at the end, he somehow manages to steal the spoke of a bicycle, even though there's like a million cops watching him.
And you're right. As if they wouldn't have like cops in the back of the van with him as well. Like he's like a highly skilled, dangerous individual as well. And it's just like, I think
that's the point where it kind of ticked over into funny for me. A lot of the time when I watch M. Night Shyamalan films, there's a point in the film where it ticks over into funny. And I think that's kind of why I enjoy his films as well, is because like he can do like serious and grounded up to a point, but then he just goes full Shyamalan at a point. And like I find him a very interesting director and creative to watch. To me, he's kind of like the Nicolas Cage of directors. Like he's got a high volume of work. He's very hit and miss, and his movies kind of offer like a spectrum of good to bad. Like he's got his good movies that are just like good movies, like Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split, that kind of thing. He's got bad movies that are also just bad, like Avatar: The Last Airbender and After Earth. But then he's also got these movies that they're bad, but I find them fun to watch. So these are like movies like Old. I haven't seen it, but The Happening probably falls into this category as well.
Well, I think it definitely,
Trap probably also falls into this category for me. Like a bad movie, but it's pretty fun to watch. But then on the flip side, he's also got these movies that are good, but nobody really talks about them because they're not as interesting as his bad movies.
Like which ones?
Like Knock at the Cabin Door and like The Visit as well.
Oh yeah, The Visit. That was Shyamalan. I forgot about that movie.
So he's very interesting. I think like after watching Trap, I've come to respect M. Night Shyamalan a lot as a creative. Because he just does what he wants to and he sticks to his guns. And like, because he funded this movie himself. So like,
oh really?
Even if it's an idea that, people won't accept necessarily, he just does it. And he makes stories that are just unapologetically him,
I respect that as well.
Like taste is very subjective. Like everybody has a different take.
Yeah.
And this is speaking as someone who has a podcast as well that we regularly critique movies and TV shows on.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, we've had our fair share of unpopular opinions as well.
That's right. But what we say is not gospel. And what any critic says is not gospel. And it's just our perspective. And everybody has a different perspective on art. And that's kind of the beauty of art, right? So like, you could spend your whole career trying to tinker with the story and create something that's going to please everybody, but that's like an impossible task, right?
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, and Shyamalan
that,
doesn't do that either. He just writes and creates things that are just authentically him. Then he brings that vision to life regardless of the results, and he's like having a great time doing that. So like, respect, man. Like those kinds of creatives, even though their movies might be bad, I think there's something to it. You know, because like even a terrible film, there's going to be somebody in the world that enjoys watching it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about like the savants out there, like Neil Breen and the Tommy Wiseaus and the
Uwe Boll,
Uwe Boll, the James Nguyen's. You see the Birdemic movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do have to admire that as well. Like, I'm not a particular fan of his movies. I just feel like they somehow lacked a little bit of impact. I feel like he should just... It might not be in his own personality, because maybe it's because The Happening failed so badly that he doesn't want to like push anything that is too much. But like, yeah, I just feel like his movies kind of lacked some form of impact. It's just the premise is weird, but still just a little bit too safe for my liking. Yeah, and I really feel that with this movie. Yeah.
I feel like that pop star should have gotten killed. But just quickly though, on nepotism, how do you feel about nepotism, Tari? Because you know that pop star's his daughter,
is that his daughter? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So basically, he self-funded this film as a platform for his musician daughter, Saleeka.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he's got two daughters in the creative industry, I think. So Saleeka is the musician, and the other one is a director.
Is the director? I see.
She directed The Watchers, which I haven't seen.
Apparently it's pretty rubbish. Yeah. I mean, like nepotism, I'm like pretty mixed about, because there are some people that kind of suck that are just there because they know someone. But it's also, on the other hand, you are just someone who has a tool that you can help someone you love, you know.
Yeah.
In that sense, your kids, you want them to have a good life. Why not try to bring them into a field that you have some sway and can make you good money? You know, it's just in that sense, is instinctual thing. Whether quality or not, that's a different thing. I mean, like Nicolas Cage is a nepotism baby, and he's done great.
Well, he didn't use the Coppola name, right? But everybody kind of knows he's a Coppola.
He's a Coppola, yeah. Yeah, because it does piss me off sometimes.
What about in this instance, though?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was his daughter. So in this instance, like, I don't think the daughter did a particularly... I think she did fine as the singer. And if you are just funding something to help your daughter get noticed, and if she makes something of herself from it, then yeah, sure. Like, I don't mind it.
Did you enjoy the music in this movie? Because the music, I think, is all her.
It's not particularly my kind of music.
Yeah,
but
it's not the worst thing though.
Yeah, it's not something I would pay money to go see, but it's very much in line with like what a tween would listen to. Not essentially my kind of music usually, but I don't mind it either. I mean, it reminds me of like when we kind of like went to Twice or something. Like, it's probably like the same like kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, but a lot wilder at Twice. I think that's probably one of the more unrealistic elements of this film, is how like quiet the interior of the concert was.
Yeah, like you can't really, that's not something...
You can't have a full-on conversation with M. Night Shyamalan during, like, in the middle of this concert.
And if you are, like, as big a fan of Lady Rhythm as a daughter, you wouldn't, like, want to miss any part of the concert. Like, she kind of seems pretty blasé at just letting her dad just leave and take it over. It's like, oh, we're missing bits of the concert. And just like, yeah. Well, I guess she didn't pay for it, so maybe she didn't get as much.
She doesn't get a choice.
But it's like, oh man, it's like fucking $300. She got some pretty premium seats.
She was a nice kid though, so maybe that's an element to that. Is like she was one of the nice kids. So
yeah, I really wish that Shyamalan sort of like focused on that family dynamic in the second act.
yeah, he dropped it completely.
Yeah, I really liked how they really like loved each other. It kind of brings it back a little bit when like he gets arrested and she hugs him.
Yeah,
But it's like I didn't really like give a shit about like the wife and the son, and just like yeah.
Clearly, he didn't either. The Josh Hartnett's character.
yeah.
The focus kind of shifts to Saleeka as well as Lady Raven for a lot of the second half, which was like, I thought the payoff was going to be like that she'd get got in the end, you know? But I guess
that would have been more interesting.
maybe because it's Shyamalan's
Because it's his daughter.
He didn't want to do that.
There you go. I reckon, you're absolutely right. It would have been more interesting if she did get got, because then it would have added to the stakes and would have been like, holy shit. Like, that really would have worked plot-wise, but it's his daughter. He's not going to kill his daughter in a movie. And that's probably where the nepotism part probably fails, because maybe you know instinctually that this is the better plot point, but you are also like a father trying to provide for your daughter. So
maybe you don't want to see your daughter get brutally murdered on screen. And I think that's fair enough, actually. Now that I'm saying it out loud.
Fair enough. That's probably not good. Yeah, he probably wants to make
It's interesting because people seem pretty on board with his decision to make this film for his daughter, which is like not generally the internet's opinion on nepotism. Usually it swings pretty hard the other way. Like After Earth, for example, people hated that.
I think it was just a shit movie.
Yeah, and I think that might be the difference
about nepotism. Yeah. If it's shit, people are just gonna hate it and they'll latch on to something. Oh, it's nepotism, you know. I just don't like nepotism when like you put someone in a position of power where they clearly shouldn't be there and have not the experience of being there or the talent to be there.
I think the difference is the level of talent. I think like if the child has some level of talent, then people are generally less offended by nepotism. But if they're, Jaden Smith, then it's a different story. I guess.
Some people say he's talent. What is that guy doing? He like makes music or something. Or is he just an influencer?
Yeah, he does a bit of everything.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really follow the Smiths these days. But this movie is just okay. I think it's just okay.
It's not the most ridiculous Shyamalan film, but it's not the best Shyamalan film either. It's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. Should we move along, Tavi?
Yeah, let's talk about
Maya. Yeah, apologies for pronunciation for this section of the podcast.
So, I came across Maya, the drowning spirit, through an Instagram post or something. It's about a folklore tale about a vengeful drowning spirit that is supposedly like usually abducts children, and they usually come in the form of someone who has like, off themselves by jumping into the river. I think it's someone in a grudge-like state.
Yep.
But then they kind of, possess the waters. But it also, what I found interesting in this movie, it covers the odd job of what they call like body fishers, which are people who are, I guess, contracted to look for corpses that are drowned in rivers and then like fish them up to give them like a proper burial. Right. So I thought that aspect of it was really cool, and the folklore aspect of it is cool, and it's set in the Mekong, and I saw the trailer for it, and it looked like a low budget like kind of indie-esque feature, but I wanted to watch it because I thought it might be good to like showcase a Vietnamese movie, because we haven't covered one yet on this podcast. And
this is the first one.
This is the first one.
This is the last one.
No. I'm sure there's definitely like good. I've seen good Vietnamese movies out there.
I talked about one recently. The Scent of the Green Papaya is very good one.
And there's another really good one I saw a few years back called like Song Lang, which was like really, really well shot. But
not this one though.
I kind of feel bad, not shitting on this movie, but having to give the review that I'm going to because I wanted to bat for like an indie Southeast Asian folklore tale set in the Mekong that's from like another part of Asia that is Southeast Asia that's not like a superpower, but there was a little bit of marketing buzz in it. Even when I went to watch it at the cinema, there was a big like cardboard cutout and thing, and you can take a picture with Maya or whatever. I didn't because I went by myself and I didn't want to look like a fucking loser. But I
gotta do it for the gram, Tavi. This is why we can't grow our socials, Tavi, because both of us hate doing it.
Yeah, we hate doing it. We're not Mr. Beast, unfortunately. We've got souls. But I was pretty keen to watch this because there was a screening where the filmmakers were going to be there, and I'm not sure where I read this, but for some reason I thought that this was half Vietnamese with some Australian crew behind it, but I don't think there's any Australian crew. Maybe the director like worked here a little bit or something, but I think the Vietnamese, I guess, community, or there's like some kind of art, sector that are were really pushing this movie. And I think they did a good job of that marketing because like for this kind of movie, there was like a fairly sizable reception, but this movie is just, it's not good, unfortunately. And I feel so bad because I don't want to shit on an indie film.
I think low budget films, I'm willing to forgive a lot in a low budget film.
Yeah.
But maybe not this much. At the same time, it's kind of like, you got to be honest, right? It's not. And I think the problem for me is that a lot of the flaws in this film are nothing to do with budget. I think it's more to do with storytelling elements.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll get into, but maybe we should do a little bit of the plot first. So essentially, this film revolves around, like you said, a lady whose job it is to fish bodies out of the Mekong, named Le. She has a young daughter who kind of gets, embroiled in a situation with Maya, the titular drowning spirit of this story. The daughter, like on her way to school or something, comes across a doll that is linked to Maya, and that kind of puts her on Maya's radar, and she starts getting haunted by the spirit. Meanwhile, Le, at first, of course, doesn't believe her, but then, she starts to see things and experience stuff that makes her believe in Maya and try to protect her daughter from Maya. To unfortunate consequence, I guess, which we'll talk about. So pretty simple story. It's pretty by simple, the numbers, vengeful spirit ghost story.
There's a lot of these Southeast Asian stories that involve like a river. I know that there's a Taiwan Menarch or something, and there's been quite a few movie iterations of that character. She's like awaiting like her husband to come back from the war or something, but he doesn't come back, and I think she somehow offers herself and becomes Menarch. But anyway, like this movie has way too many jump scares, and none of them got me. Maybe a couple, because it's just like, it's kind of scary when someone's just in your face, but most of the time, the tension and the building of dread was not done very well because there is an emotional core, but it's not built very well. So it's not scary. Another example of a movie that I really like, Dark Water. It's not necessarily the scariest movie, but the emotional core of it is quite strong. And the building of dread and the silence of it is done really well.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, there is always some kind of musical sting that is telling you how to feel, rather than just letting the silence or the sound design carry it through. And I think that is just kind of maybe a poor utilization, or maybe in a sense that this movie was too ambitious with its locations and what it could capture. So you've had to compromise on like that kind of tension building. And there's a lot of characters who just say, it's like, oh, what was that? Is that a dream? Oh. And speaking of fucking dreams, this one dude gets woken up 3 times in a row in one scene.
And that's like my main issue with this, the format of this movie is that it is so repetitive. Like every scene is basically a build up to a jump scare. And one of the scenes is three build ups to three separate jump scares on the same bloke. And none of them pay off in his death either. It's just he's dreaming the whole time. It becomes like very samey and also a bit of a chore to watch, honestly. And you're absolutely right. Like this movie is pretty short, like 1.5 hours long, but it felt really long.
It felt long.
But at the same time, there wasn't enough time spent on any kind of character development or any kind of relationship building between the mother and the daughter character. So when you get to the end of it, it feels really hollow. Like I know what they were going for with the big twist, but like I was kind of like, yeah, all right. I was more confused than devastated by the twist.
Yeah. Like, was there any build up to that twist?
No,
which I guess we'll get into.
It wasn't telegraphed, and that's a problem as well. But like my point is, I guess that in Dark Water, like you said, we care about the characters, so there's more at stake when they're getting jump scared, right? That helps in the tension building. But when it's a bunch of randoms, like it's not, it's hard to make you feel emotionally invested in scenes like this.
Like the dude that gets triple jump scared is just like the mortician, right? Or something.
There's a shaman guy as well. There's a guy that wears a fishing hat. I'm not sure if that's the same guy as the mortician, honestly. And I mean, that's part of the problem. I think I don't hate the ghost design. I think it's, it's pretty traditional, pretty spooky looking.
Yeah.
And I think even like the framing of some of the scares is okay. Like I like the scenes where the ghost is kind of like off focus in the background. You kind of see her from the neck down. Like when the girl kind of is first pointing it out to that fat kid. Sorry, I shouldn't say fat kid, but
but he is a fat kid. Yeah. He's a chubby kid.
He's funny. I like him because he's really brave. Yeah, but like he can't see the ghost, but the little girl is kind of pointing her out. I found that like legitimately spooky.
Yeah,
but like a lot of the other times, it is just like, what was that noise? Turn around, nothing there. Turn around, big ghost face in your face with a horror skin, and there's only so many times that can work.
Can really get you. Yeah, I was like pretty relaxed while watching this movie, to be honest, but maybe not in the good sense. But you're right. Like this movie, it's spooky, but it also like lacks atmosphere, and I think that is due to probably like the color grading of this movie.
Okay. I didn't mind the way that a lot of this movie looked. I appreciated the location.
The locations look good. Like the production design, the village, like it feels very Southeast Asian folklore. But I think it's just like the lighting and the color grading gives it like a lack of atmosphere. It kind of looks like a Southeast Asian TV rom-com at points.
Okay.
And I think that's just the budget. And you can really tell during the daylight scenes where they're like talking about like this spirit. And how like everyone's scared of it.
There's like four random people in like a shopping district just having a chat about this ghost.
It didn't really help to build that dread. And even though the ghost design is scary, I think the use of the ghost's voice kind of seems very like campfire tale. So it's kind of like cheesy, but it doesn't make it scary. So I was like, oh yeah, it's just someone go, ooh, I'm a ghost or something. Yeah, it just seemed very like, yeah. So it just kind of quelled that fear for me.
Sure.
Because I mean, you and I are pretty much horror veterans at this point. So
I mean, I still get scared, and like to be honest, I was tense during a lot of this film, but not in a fun way. It was more, I was tense because I knew there was going to be a loud noise and a ghost in my face, like at a point. And like, it's just kind of uncomfortable watching a film like that because it's not, like when it happens, it's not fun. And you're just kind of like on edge the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't feel much of the tension in this movie. Like I said, I felt pretty chill watching this movie.
I mean, it was kind of more annoying though. It's kind of like when, imagine if you have a friend that's like a notorious prankster, right? Like imagine being part of the Jackass crew. You know, I wouldn't have fun in that environment. It's not fun. You know something is going to You know something horrible is going to happen to you, but it's not in a fun way, you know? So you are tense, but it's more annoying than anything else.
Yeah. I will try to find some positives. I think the again, I do feel bad having to give this a negative review, but we're just honest. We're not paid by.
I think the performance of the lead is decent.
Yeah,
especially when she has a freak out at the end. I quite enjoyed that, even though it was a confusing twist. And yeah, like the implementation of the folklore, I always appreciate that. You know. Like,
the folklore is cool, and there's a setup for a lot of pretty interesting aspects of this movie. But I think with the relentless jump scares, I think it's finding the balance, because with horror fans, you have like a faction of horror fans that love, even if the horror movie is bad, they just love like the constant jump scares or the kills. But then you have the people that like I'm going to call the A24 horror, where it's more, the elevated horror, as they say, where it's not necessarily scary, but the story is quite strong. But both these horror fans, like as a generalization, they kind of hate the opposites of what, each like. So a lot of people will think, the elevator horror is like super pretentious. And then the jump scare horror is like, it's kind of just cheap scares.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see like points for both. But I think this movie was trying to balance with like, let's have like a folklore story, but we also want to have this movie to have a broad appeal. And the broadest appeal is relentless jump scares, like, movies like The Nun and The Nun 2 and a lot of those Conjuring Universe movies, which I enjoy.
Yeah, they can be fun, but...
Yeah, I feel like this movie takes too much inspiration from the Hollywood style of horror film storytelling, which is relentless jump scares and a pretty thin plot. There's not really unlikable characters in this one.
Yeah, it's not really that many characters in general. Like,
yeah,
because there's no development.
And the body count of this movie is like, I mean, this just might be me as a guy, but because all the victims in this movie are like old men, I didn't really feel very scared when the ghost killed them, because I don't know, there's just something about it when it is like a female that is getting stalked, or someone, they're about to get killed. That kind of brings up the tension. That's why all the stuff with Nung, with the daughter, is, I guess, arguably scarier. But when it's just like some like the old fisherman guy, like, oh, what the fuck's going on? Well, my net torn. Oh my god. Oh yeah. It just doesn't really hit for me.
Yeah.
And I think the fates of what happens to a lot of the people that die, it's not strong enough. Like something like, let's say like The Ring, for example, you see what happens to the victims when they're killed. It's really, really grotesque. It's like quite wretched almost. But
and the cause of death is not obvious, right? Like you see the corpse, but you're like, how did it do that? And I think that not knowing is a big part of it. But in this movie, she just drowns them, really. And
she just drowns them, because again, they probably like didn't want to make it too, I guess, graphic or grotesque.
You say that, but is the implication, I might have misread this, but is the implication that she is also raping these men?
Is it? I don't know. I didn't get this.
Because at the end of the movie, they're like, she takes men away, and then people will go to the mangroves and they'll find a fetus or an infant.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, maybe you're right, actually. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty grotesque, but like the delivery is not... it's not very strong. It's confusing.
You know what? The stuff in the credits where they're talking to the villagers, that stuff is scarier than the actual movie.
It is.
Because it's quite interesting the way, because it is actually quite subtle, and it's just interesting with the way that they tell the story. I guess that's the traditional campfire storytelling way of things. Like you just hear these folklore things, and I was like, oh, this is like cool. Like barely anyone watches credits for movies, but I enjoyed the credits more than the movie when she's talking to these people who are talking about them. But
yeah, it's interesting. It's like the kind of stuff that you would hear from like our relatives as well, that they're from Laos and stuff. They've all had supernatural experiences, and they were very happy to share them. And they're fun to listen to.
Because I remember reading it and said that the ghost mostly goes for children. And I think much of the body count should have been children in this movie, because it would have made the stakes much higher.
In the movie, it goes for men that are compatible with her, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Like my showing was kind of weirdly translated as well at times.
Yeah, no, same. Did you see like errors in the subtitles?
Yeah,
I saw quite a few. I'm like, this is pretty bad.
I think that's
it's
where
like
the budget,
changed the word.
the lack of budget comes into play as well. But I mean, I think this movie had potential, but like, just a bit of a miss for me. We should talk about the twist at the end.
Let's talk about the twist. Yeah.
So basically, like, there's a big climax of the film where
it is a very like big Conjuring-esque climax.
The mum gets possessed.
Big CGI battle. Yeah, that's it.
And then like kind of forces the ghost out of herself and then has a fight with the ghost. She just ends up stabbing the ghost.
Oh,
which is pretty funny. But, like, why didn't anyone else think of that, really? Just stab the ghost.
Stab the ghost. Yeah.
But then, she emerges from the water victorious, having vanquished the ghost. She gives her daughter a big hug. There's these two. So the mortician and the nanny are kind of watching over this really touching moment of the daughter hugging the mum. And then it pans around and the daughter's not there. The mum is just hugging thin air. So the daughter at a point died. But for me, it's a bit unclear when the point that she died is.
Yeah, me as well. I think it's when she was first initially grabbed. Because there's a bit where the daughter finds a doll in the lake and she goes missing for that first time. I think that's when she dies. But I was confused because it seemed like they were trying to suggest that there was no Maya for a point until like that last bit with the chubby kid and then coming across Maya. So it's confusing because it's like, it's partly they were going the psychological route, but then it's like, oh, no. But there is actually a ghost, by the way, guys. Like, don't get us wrong. There's a spirit.
That's kind of like Tale of Two Sisters as well, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like Shutter Island as well, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a supernatural element, but there's also a psychological break element. So it can work. It just wasn't very clear to me.
It was not earned, I don't think, that ending.
Because then after that, there's kind of like, they show little flashbacks of the scenes from the movie, but the daughter is removed from the picture. So it just looks like the mum is crazy, right?
But I feel like that's just like the movie not doing a good job of teasing it throughout, so they just like had to just chuck it in these flashbacks. It is like a pretty common like trope, but you have to give a little bit to the audience to maybe like piece it together. Like you have to give enough for those few really eagle-eyed audience members that are like, hey, that's a bit weird, like maybe she might be dead. But maybe there was a scene in that movie, but from what I saw, there's no allusion to that the daughter could be dead. It feels like the movie is trying to be more clever than it actually is, to have like a big Odessu moment, I suppose. Because she starts like freaking out, and it kind of goes on for a bit too long as well. Because then she goes to like eating rice that has maggots in it or something. She's like, I was like, all right, you gotta like the rhythm of it was off, I think. I don't know. When that ending works, like in Tale of Two Sisters, it works so fucking well. In this movie, I think the scope of this movie was too grand. Like, it's not to say there was no, like, there was hard work put into this.
Oh, yeah. Props for filming on water. Filming on water is always challenging. Like I said, I think a lot of it does look good. Some of the shots are pretty like well thought out as well, but not enough to save this film, unfortunately.
Yeah. I can't really recommend this movie, to be honest. I do like these kind of stories a lot, but it's just not good.
It's kind of a beer and buddies movie, maybe. I think I would have enjoyed it if I had a beer or two.
Maybe you're right. Yeah. No, there's definitely an audience for this kind of movie. There's probably a lot of people that do enjoy this movie, and to see, I think there would be a lot of Viet pride watching this movie as well, because there just isn't that many. But it's
and
kind
they're
of
telling
like,
a story that like probably a lot of Vietnamese people have grown up with and know about, right?
Well, probably some of our Vietnamese friends maybe can even like maybe Tung can enlighten us more on this if he
Tung,
knows
watch
much
this
about.
bad movie, will you? And then tell us what you think. That's pretty much what you told me, Tavi. It's like, hey, go watch this movie. I want to know what you think about it. And I came out of it and I was like, I didn't like that, Tavi. And you're like, yeah, same.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Love spending money on movies. Shall we move it along?
Yeah, let's move along to
a movie that you have spent a lot of money on, Tavi.
You and I have spent a lot of money on this movie.
I watched it twice. I watched it twice in 4D. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Alien Romulus.
Alien Romulus. A good alien movie after... Well, I rewatched all the Alien movies kind of in the lead up to this. Yeah. And watching Prometheus and Covenant again, I actually quite like them. They're trying to do something different. Doesn't succeed, but there was like a philosophical edge that Ridley Scott was trying to, uphold. But again, it's partly, and maybe we talked about this in my like the elevatedness of it, but also the I just want to see fucking aliens part of it.
Yeah. They're definitely a lot more lore heavy than their predecessors, right?
Yeah.
So he's trying to build the world up.
Yeah, this one is definitely the I just want to see fucking aliens part of it, and yeah, it delivers a lot.
That said, there's a little bit of lore. There's a lot of callbacks to Prometheus and Covenant. I guess we'll do non-spoilers for this movie first, and then we'll drop a spoiler warning before we talk full spoilers. But yeah, really good movie.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Probably one of my favorite movies. It's definitely not the deepest movie, but it's just so much fun.
So the plot is, I guess the plot is basically Alien and aliens combined into one movie,
together,
right? So like a bunch of kids, essentially, that are growing up in this mining colony planet. They want to find a means to escape this planet because it sucks there. And they discover this abandoned outpost that's fallen into their planet's orbit. So their plan is to go to this outpost and take the cryo chambers from that outpost, and that will give them the means to be able to jump to like a distant planet.
Outside of the Weyland-Yutani grasp.
Yes.
Because Weyland-Yutani is Disney, which is ironic because Disney owns this product.
Yeah, there's a bit of commentary in this. We'll talk about it. But yes, unfortunately for them, the outpost is infested by aliens. There's an alien situation.
Imagine the alternate of this movie where they're like, oh, we got the cryopods, let's leave. And then that's the end of the movie. And it's like, oh, gotcha.
That was easy.
That was easy. It'd be like the anti-movie. But no, that's not the case. But yeah, we follow our two protagonists really is Rain and Andy, who is an android, but she calls it her brother, or calls him her brother.
So he's kind of like a repaired Weyland-Yutani older model android. So he's an android, but is not as competent as the other androids that we've seen in this franchise in the past.
Yeah.
He's more friendly and and likable. At the start, anyway.
I really like what they did with Andy. I think he's a pretty interesting character.
And the dude's really nailing that performance.
Yeah. David Johnson. I've not seen him in anything else.
But he's essentially playing dual roles in this film. Because at a point, Andy kind of gets an upgrade that turns into kind of just a Weyland-Yutani android. Speech patterns change, intelligence levels change. So
and he kind of becomes somewhat of a
prick,
almost like an antagonist at a point. He's interesting. Like, I really like what they've done with Andy and the subtle theme of like what is considered to be like a human and whatnot. And it's usually like the case that because AI can feel and like be happy and like, be nice, like, yeah, they're human, but he is a prick at points. And like one of the other characters is quite wary of him. And he's almost like right to a point because like he does end up being sort of a detriment to the survival of the crew.
I mean, everyone in the team outside of Rain treats Andy as as an item, as a machine. So that's kind of where the difference in perspectives becomes really interesting. Like Rain and Andy kind of have this emotional attachment, but it is kind of the same as having an emotional attachment to to your toaster, you know? So, yeah, I think the film does a good job in selling both of these points, by ultimately showing the emotional relationship as the stronger one.
I like Kaylee Spaney as well. Like, I've seen her in a few things recently.
Your favorite
Civil
movie.
War.
Civil War.
Yeah, I still really like that movie.
Yeah.
I watched her in another TV series called Devs as well, which is also another Alex Garland. I went on a bit of an Alex Garland spree after Civil War. She's kind of up and coming.
What else was she in? She's in
Priscilla.
Priscilla, that's right. Yeah, she's really
which I
good
haven't
in that.
seen yet, but apparently she's really good in that as well. Yeah, so keep an eye on her. She's cool. I like her. But like, if anyone is clicking on an alien, I don't give a fuck about the characters. I don't hear about the aliens. Like, yeah, the aliens are very good in this movie.
Yes,
there's a lot of a good combination of practical and CGI effects, and
not always good, Tavi. We'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah.
But yeah, no, the aliens themselves, they've gone the practical route for the most part. So a lot of robotics involved / puppeteering.
Yeah.
There's a dude in a costume at one point, which is very cool.
Yeah. Which is like a callback to the first one. Like, it is kind of a good example of it is a modern update in the sense that it's basically Aliens, The Force Awakens, right? So it's not really anything too new in terms of a plot, but it is just using modern technology with a mixture of old to enhance its visual storytelling. Because Alien 1 is a masterpiece, you know. It is like one of the best sci-fi horrors ever made, and the Alien franchise is like one of my favorites. Like, I've loved this franchise since I was a kid, and that's why I kind of forgive a lot of the bad Alien movies as well. Alien 3 and 4, I have a soft spot for them, even though they're not very good.
Sure.
And maybe that's why I like Covenant and Prometheus, Prometheus, and I don't like the AVP movies. I think they're kind of shit, but I'll still watch. If they make another one, I'll watch them. But anyway, the first Alien, it's a masterpiece, but there are points where it's like the costuming, especially when you see the alien outside the ship, like you can, it's a dude in a suit, and it kind of like takes it out of it. For me, a little bit.
Yeah, they're limited by the technology at the time.
At the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said of the practicality. Even like if something doesn't look the best, because it's practical, it still feels like a real thing. Like you're looking at a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when CGI is not the best, it's always bad to look at.
It's always bad to look at. Yeah. But yeah, with this movie, they've like updated the stakes and they've made it like super intense. And the face huggers are so fucking scary, man.
I assumed that the face huggers were CGI because there's so many of them at one point.
Yeah.
But they're all practical, right? Like they're all little machines scurrying around. Or it's a blend, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a blend. There's one really like nightmare shot in this movie. It's where they're first running away from the face huggers and that door is closing. You can see all the legs trying to, it's like, it's too many legs, man. Fuck.
It's too many legs.
Goddamn, too many legs. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. And like, that's something that you've seen when you, I guess if you live in Australia, like if you live in the country as well, like you go into your fucking garage and you see that there's a nest of spiders, you see all those fucking legs and it's gross. It's fucking, it's disgusting. And again, I've seen this movie 3 times and all it's fucking like extreme screen. I saw it in IMAX and I saw it in 4D, and that frame always gets like a gasp or a reaction from the audience because it is so under your skin, like creepy.
Yeah.
Because I was telling you off air that I don't find aliens, like in general, very scary.
Like the big xenomorph.
No, not xenomorph. I'm just talking about just alien themed stuff. Like I don't find it very scary.
Yeah.
And even the xenomorph, it's scary, but it's not like
it's more cool than scary.
It's cool, yeah. I find it really cool. So it doesn't really. It's not keeping me up at night. It's like, oh, that's cool. And I've always loved it as a kid, but face
huggers
huggers
aren't
is
cool.
just oh man, it's the way that they fucking kill you. It's so fucking gross.
Like the little sacks on the side that are like inflating up and oh yuck.
Oh yeah, but also like the bit like this isn't even a spoiler because like they show it in the trailer. Like yeah, it jumps on the Asian chick and that's her character. She's just Asian because she's got her little. She says like stuff in Chinese, like yeah, because you know we are all spiritual Chinese people in Asian. Yeah, and you know how Hollywood loves killing Asians first. That's just a guaranteed. But like. It is what it is. The way that it latches onto her face and what they've done with the new technology with this is like there's these side flaps of the face huggers. And when you see it like synchronizing with her breathing and her stomach like moving up and down and you see the thing, it's just like, it looked fucking gross. It's just like, oh man. It's just like, ooh. And it's just like, oh man, face huggers. And then they've got this long fucking tube that like, it pulls out and it tries to get into your mouth. It's just gross. It's like, ugh. But I love it at the same time. Man, I really wish, and this happened with Dune 2 as well, like the popcorn bucket, like the sandworm popcorn bucket. And then there was a face hugger one. I want that, man. Bring that shit back, man. Like,
you can probably get that.
No, but like, I want to be able to go to the cinema and pay. I don't want to order online and have it shipped and shit. I just want that kind of excitement to come back to Australian cinema. Even like with Deadpool and Wolverine, just have like a stupid fucking Deadpool head bucket thing. And people will buy that shit.
I'm not sure why we don't have them in Australia.
I don't know, because maybe the cinema industry is not that big here compared to like the US or China. But that's like, I would buy that if I went to the cinema.
Everybody would buy it.
And that shit was,
it'd be a massive moneymaker. I'm honestly flabbergasted, like why we don't get them here.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of the cool alien design, like it's interesting because you don't see an alien for a little while, just like in the first and in Alien 2, actually. Yeah. But when you see it, man, is it fucking cool. The way that it comes out of that little fucking sack thing.
Yep.
I will have to say, what might be lacking in this movie is that the crew themselves are not the most memorable.
Not overly memorable.
They do kind of feel like teenagers. I mean, like the only people that on the fourth or the third time I watched it was like there was Navarro, the Chinese girl, and Bjorn, the jerk guy. But I don't even know like the names of
I didn't catch his name. Yeah, I didn't catch any of their
Bjorn.
names. Really.
It's Bjorn, but like. What there's pregnant girl.
Yeah, I'm looking at the credits, and the pregnant girl doesn't even have a character name listed in the cast list.
Oh really? It's K.
Okay, all right.
And Tyler, K and Tyler. So they feel very like, they're not the deepest characters, and I think maybe that it's not really going for that.
Sure.
But what Fede Alvarez does very well is he knows how to build tension in a pretty simple story. Like, have you seen Don't Breathe?
Yeah, that's a movie with an odd twist at the end as well.
Yeah. I was kind of like underwhelmed by the premise of that movie because I thought it was just a bit too simple. But when I watched it, I'm like, oh, I can see like why they would pick Fede Alvarez to make Alien, because she uses a lot of these fairly everyday like shit to make it seem scary, like especially the stuff with the dog. Like there's a shot in that movie where the dog's in the car and it seems quite monstrous as well.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cool. So he could use that in spades with this one.
Yeah.
And I actually quite enjoyed his original Evil Dead remake as well back in, I think it was 2010 or 2011. It's quite grisly.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because this movie, it's pretty violent movie, but it was actually not as grisly as I expected it to be.
Even towards the end?
Yeah, even towards the end. It's like, it's still fucked, but I was just like, oh, yeah. Like, you know, maybe I'm just fucked. But if you watch Covenant is pretty violent movie.
Yeah.
I was actually quite surprised by the amount of gore that's in that movie.
There's a bunch of like mutilated corpses as well in that. It's pretty unsettling.
Yeah.
But I think Fede Alvarez, he's good at making movies like in an environment that's kind of like predetermined.
Yeah.
Like the Evil Dead movie and the Alien franchise, you know, they have this world built for him already, and he's kind of just got to like use what he has like available to create something new. And I think that comes through in things like how she's got the little X-ray machine that she uses before she gets chest bursted. That's pretty cool. I mean, we'll talk about it more in spoilers, but like there's a really cool scene involving alien blood that is like that's a great idea. That's never been done before, but has always kind of been there in the lore.
It's true. Yeah.
So
it kind of gets ignored in Resurrections, it's like, yeah, it's true, actually. Why did they just, anyway.
But yeah, in this movie, Alien Romulus, he does a great job in utilizing a lot of these ideas. And in the execution is really good as well. Like the thing that sold me on this movie is right at the start of the film, there's a spaceship, and then we pan like to the window of the spaceship, and it shows the instruments in there. And then the instruments light up with this like really retro sound, and I'm like, as soon as the instruments lit up, I'm like, this is gonna be a good movie. I can tell. Like, the production design is immaculate in this film. Like,
it's
you can
so good.
See inspiration from like all of the Alien films and the game
even
as
the
well.
new ones.
Alien Isolation. Like a lot of it
yeah.
feels like Alien Isolation, actually. And apparently he's a big fan of that game, right? So
for sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That just instantly sold me on this movie, and from there it just went from strength to strength. We haven't mentioned it, but we saw this movie in 4DX. It's probably named different things in other countries, but it's essentially the type of theater where your chair moves and there's wind and water
and the special effects machines and I wasn't gonna watch this in 4D, and I didn't even know it was in 4D. Risky told me that he saw it in 4D. And he's like, well, you got to watch it in 4D. It adds so much to the experience. And I was a bit hesitant because I thought like 4D, you have to wear the glasses as well. And I don't like 3D movies.
Sure. Yeah.
But then he said, nah, it's nothing like that. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll think about it. And then you told me that you watched it in 4D. And like, I didn't think that you enjoyed 4D movies either. So I thought that you would have just watched it normally. But you and your partner said like, oh, you gotta watch it in 4D. It's like amazing. And then like you saw this movie in 4D twice with your partner, and anyone who knows your partner well, it's kind of like a special occasion when she watches movies twice. So I thought, oh, I better go watch this fucking movie in 4D. So I went to the only cinema in Victoria that does it is Century City, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Which is really far from me. It's in Glen Waverley. So it's not really far, but it's like...
It's a good hour and 15.
It is, even with like no traffic, it's still an hour's drive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to make the trip. And like, I wasn't looking forward to making that trip, but like, okay, I'll go watch it in 4D. And this is coming off like me watching it in extreme screen, and then I watch it in IMAX, and then like 2 days later I watch it in 4D. And 4D is the definitive experience for this movie, because this movie is a roller coaster ride in its presentation, which can be seen as a bad thing, but because of how enclosed that the situation is, it just seems so tailor-made for 4D. Because I'm like, holy shit, like, especially a lot of stuff with the ships and the decompression, and then like the alien goo shit and the chest burster shit.
Elements.
I'm like, oh.
Like, in terms of the chair moving around, right? Like, you've got the scenes where, it's all kicking off, there's explosions going on, so your chair's like going crazy, right? But you've also got like the slow, like, space movement where you feel like you're floating. So it's got both of those elements. The wind machine is really good to use during the vacuum scenes. The goo, the alien goo, of course, getting splashed.
And like, I was saying that this movie lacks a little bit of character depth for the other people. But when I watched this movie in 4D, I actually cared more. I was like, wow, like, I didn't really care that much about them in Extreme and IMAX, but then when I was like, oh, I actually like kind of felt like more tension, especially I think the best part that I felt 4D the most was when Kay, because she kind of gets knocked out a bit, and then she wakes up like, and there's you hear the steam of the ship, and then there's the water dripping, and she's like, this is as when the xenomorph is first revealed and it's kind of stalking her. And that's kind of when I felt it the most, because she's like under the grates and then you can feel like the little clangings in your chair and you can feel the wind. But then when the alien comes in, you can hear the vibration and then you feel the goo dripping on you. And it's just like, oh, this is awesome. It's great. And I was like, God damn, like, and I felt like I didn't want her to die, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like because of the immersion, you know, it's almost like you are the character in the movie, you know? You feel what they're feeling. So, yeah, it makes sense that you'd become more invested in their journey. But so if you're listening to this and you haven't seen Alien Romulus yet, we would highly recommend 4D if it's available to you. This is not an ad, but we'll go watch it in 4D.
It really, like, I was a 4D skeptic. I might still be. It depends on the movie.
It does feel like a gimmick, right? Like
it does.
But yeah, when it works, it works.
I only had just remembered that we watched Civil War, the Captain America one, in 4D.
Yeah, we did watch it in 4D,
Japan.
didn't we?
I'd completely forgotten that we had watched it in 4D, but we did. And like, it felt like a gimmick then. I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. But then, like, because that movie doesn't really lend itself much to the 4D experience. So I had forgotten. And I think that's why it's like, 4D, doesn't really matter. I don't really care. But in this movie, when it just really feels like a ride. It's like, this is like, it is, you gotta watch it in 4D.
I don't know how much thought goes into, when they're making this movie, how much thought goes into the 4D experience. I'm guessing not that much. But this movie feels like it was made for 4D.
I think so.
And this is probably a coincidence. It's just the design of the movie itself. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. It's worth the money.
Because like Fede Alvarez, he's really good at this. Movie has so much tension. Whether it probably lacks a little bit in narrative, but I didn't really give a shit at that point because like I was just having so much fun watching this movie. This is probably like, I think a lot of people see this as a positive and a negative, and it is kind of a Disney-ism, but there is like a lot of callbacks to the earlier movies. Like there's a few lines, but I feel like for this movie, if you took all those callbacks out, I think it was still a good movie regardless. I think it's when the movie relies on having to call back that it's like, okay, it dates it a little bit,
I think in this instance, the callbacks are more of like a nod of respect to its predecessors, more than like a crutch to stand on.
And like I've seen like some negative reviews saying like it relies too much on it. Like I don't think it relies on it at all, except for that one.
There's only one real thing where it's part of the plot, right? But like aside from that, it's not really. They're just there for people to enjoy or not enjoy, I guess. And
I like as mixed as I feel about Disney, especially recently, if you've heard about like the lady who passed away at a Disney park. And then the husband was trying to sue.
That. Horrible, ghoulish behavior from corporations.
It is so hard when it's like, oh, you think we're like villains, huh? Well, do you want to watch Alien? It's like, take my money, Disney. And like they did make the decision to not just put this on streaming and put it in a theater.
Yeah, it feels like Fede Alvarez had a lot of control over this project. Because I remember there was like a marketing campaign where he sent like a scene out on VHS.
Oh, yeah.
Disney said, like, we want to release this scene as part of the promotion. And his condition was that they can do it, but it has to be in VHS form and sent out to like, select distributors. There's that as well as the review embargo. I believe there was a review embargo for a time after the release of the film where people weren't allowed to review it. So I feel like, he had a bit of creative control, but also control in the way that this film was like presented to the public. There's also like the practical, there's showings where people have like chest bursts coming out of them. Like they put actors in the audience.
Instagram. It's quite funny.
Which is fun. And that's not like a small amount of effort as well. Like I saw like a little documentary snippet thing where they're like, yeah, when you do it on film, you can hide stuff with the camera, right? But when you're doing it live, it's essentially a magic trick where you have to hide, like physically hide all of the tubes and stuff that go into that effect.
It's pretty fun. And like, it's interesting because usually with the review embargo stuff, they usually do that to hide that it's going to be like a pretty shit movie and we don't want people to give it a negative review yet because we want the money. But in this sense, I think because there's a few things that can be spoiled, but it's not a detriment to the quality of the movie. Because I saw this movie on opening night because I'm like, I don't want to like, I mean, you had your Deadpool rant about spoilers, and this is not really a spoiler-heavy movie, but it's also like I didn't want to be swayed by anything. Like I just wanted to watch this as soon as possible because I fucking love this franchise. Yeah, and I'm glad I did. Like I was always on the edge of my seat, and like the fact that I've seen this movie 3 times and would still be willing to. I probably will watch this again in 4D before it ends its run because I don't think there's going to be another experience like that. I mean, it's not the only way to experience this movie, but really it adds like so much to the experience. Though I will have to say the mixture of like the formula of Alien 1 and Alien 2 holds it back in a sense that when the first alien is revealed, it's kind of stalking the crew a little bit. And I thought that was kind of cool. But then it kind of leads into more Aliens, where it is a little bit more action orientated, and it would have been nice to see a bit more at that stalking, like the crew, like in Alien 1. Right. And you kind of lose sense that original xenomorph is the overarching like main villain. Yeah, it kind of the
falls
aliens
into the background, I guess. At a point in the film, which is probably spoiler territory, but yeah. No, like, should we talk a little bit spoilers?
Yeah. So this movie is a combination of good CGI, mostly good CGI. Yeah, I had completely negated the fact that there is one very questionable use of CGI.
Yeah,
there's a callback to the late great Ian Holm, Bilbo Baggins as Ash from Alien 1.
Well, he's playing Rook in this one, but still
he's playing Rook,
Android Man. Yeah,
and he's a villain, and they find him as a half mangled android, and like his face, his CGI face, the deep fake technology is not quite there yet. But I kind of also don't want deep fake to get any better than that because then we're all screwed.
So it's as practical as they could have done it, I guess. It's basically face replacement on a puppet. But it's pretty janky. It's still kind of in that uncanny valley. There's something just a little bit off about the face. And like I found it just a really interesting choice because he's an android, right? Like he could have. There's a number of androids that they could have chosen from. They could have used, Michael Fassbender's David. They could have used one of the Lance Henriksen ones. People that are still alive, I guess. Actors that are still alive, I should say. So the decision to make it Ian Holmes's android was at first, I was like, why? I guess. And like thinking about it, like I guess from a narrative perspective, like Ian Holmes' Ash is definitely the biggest jerk out of all of those android examples, right? And
I don't know. Fassbender's pretty bad. He's basically wiped out an entire civilization.
He's more like sinister and evil than a jerk. Like Ash is just a bit of a jerk. He's a corporate jerk, basically. So I guess that kind of makes sense because this character of Rook is supposed to be also a bit of a corporate jerk.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense. But I did a little bit of digging and found out that I guess this decision by Fede Alvarez was based on like Ian Holmes' family. I think Ian Holmes' family expressed the desire for him to appear in this movie, right?
Okay. Okay.
They were like, it'd be great if he could come back in some form.
I see.
And Fede Alvarez, having lost his own father, like pretty recently as well, he's like, let's do it this way. So
Okay,
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that decision, I guess. Still pretty janky looking though.
Because I read that like he just wanted to do it to pay homage to Ian Holm. I didn't know that his family wanted him to be in there, because there's been a lot of criticism saying that it's like, oh, you're just puppeting like a dead actor's likeness. Isn't that a bit disrespectful? But if his family wanted him to be back into it, then I can't really fault it either. It may look a little bit jank, but I think it does pay respects to Ash, even though he's still a jerk. Like, it's within his character to be like a jerk. And I think when you kind of see him through the TV screens and the monitors and stuff,
it looks
it's
better.
hidden a lot better behind the filters. It's only when they like find him in person that it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like his lips look a little bit
but
weird.
It's like the first reveal of him is like, ooh, that doesn't look great.
yeah. But like, I don't think it doesn't really take away from that much either, because the rest of the movie is just like so enjoyable that it's like, like you let it slide.
And like it's probably the most noticeably CGI part of the film. Like the practicality of all of the effects helps sell this movie a lot, especially the end reveal of the human alien, I guess.
Yeah. What a climax, man. This movie has probably the second best climax in the franchise, I think. I think the best one is Aliens, when Ripley is fighting the Queen. But with this one, because there had been like a pretty big action set piece with Rain, because at this point, everyone is basically dead except for the pregnant sister, Kay, and Andy. But there's a plot device, and this is the nod to Prometheus, where they have like this pathogen that can repair human DNA or any DNA, any organic DNA really quickly. And they kind of like, they give it to her because Rook will remote pilot their ship out of the, I was going to say Sevastopol, but that's the isolation. Is that isolation? Yeah,
that's isolation. Out of the Romulus, yes.
Out of the Romulus, But she ends up like using it, and like, she's pregnant. She
uses it so quickly, Tavi. That's one like narrative flaw that
She's hurt, man. She got stung by a tail.
But there's not even like a little like shot where she's like thinking about it. She just does it instantly. As soon as Rain leaves, she's like, "Yep, I'm gonna inject this into my neck now." I'm not sure what it's gonna do to me, but it
hurts, man. Getting a tail through your fucking canes, man. It's a big tail.
Probably,
It's quite painful. She can't run that far. She's dying. She's bleeding. That's why. Isn't that why she's not impregnated by the alien? Because she's gonna die anyway or something. So they just left her. She is pregnant. And then when she uses this thing, it basically creates this human hybrid thing later on, which I didn't see as a climax, because I was saying before I got sidetracked. Like, there'd been that strong action set piece where Kaylee Spady or Rain has like killed all these aliens. You just turn the anti-gravity field back on because the blood would leak through the hole and like cause a massive like malfunction. But so I actually thought that was the end, and I thought they were going to go for the more sequel bait ending, because it's kind of what they did in Prometheus and Covenant, where it's like the ending is not super clear, but it's also like seems to be adding up to something. But as soon as the thing starts like beeping, and then the fucking alien egg thing comes out, and you see that it's like a half person, and it grows into this like sort of engineer looking guy with a long ass tail. That's great. That's Alien, right? It's in its definition in the franchise and definition as a broad sense. It is fucking Alien because it looks human, but it's fucked. Right? So.
That design, man, it's fucking amazing. Like, just the smile on his face as well, the pale
it's
skin.
So fucking scary. Goddamn.
And it's gross. It's unsettling as well. And like, you made a really good point about the Alien franchise in that each of the movies are quite different from each other. And it's almost like the world is like a sandbox for the directors to play in and like give it their own flavor, And I think that this moment is like the Fede Alvarez flavor. Is like the really unsettling shit, like the don't breathe element, or the
the
Evil Dead element.
The pregnant element.
Yeah.
The pregnancy, like, man, like, just loves like fucking up with babies and shit.
Just loves a fucked up pregnancy.
Yeah. But I was just like, oh, what a strong climax, you know, and like. Even the body count, like, because he eventually, like, kills Kay. And then, like, with the little tongue thing that, like, slithers out of his mouth as well. And, like, the fact that they got an actor, like, that's a suit, right?
Yeah.
Because
So it's just
they
a
showed
very
the actor.
tall man. He's a basketball player, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. It's like, ooh, it's so cool. I loved it. Robert Bobrovsky, I think. Bobrovsky? I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. But he's Hungarian.
He's a pretty weird looking man.
He's a pretty weird looking. He looks.
Not to
he
be
arguably
mean,
looks
but
alien. Yeah.
I don't think they had to stretch that far to create that
I'm
creature design.
I'm just looking at the IMDb like portrait of him. I'm just like, I'm sorry, Robert. Like, but the way that he's like head and neck proportions, it's like they didn't have to do that much. It just goes straight. And yeah, he's a pretty alien looking guy. Yeah. But I was just like, oh, it was just really cool. And then so it's kind of adds something new to the franchise, this new bit of lore. And this is when people said like, oh, you know, like it's just a retread. Yeah, but it's like, nah, man. Like this is a new design and it's done like really well. Not like I guess it's the same plot point from Resurrections, whether this is a nod to Resurrections or not. But that alien hybrid just looked a bit dumb. Just looked like a big puppy dog, which I kind of assume is what they're going for because it's Alan Ripley's kid essentially.
Yeah. But it is like sometimes it's cute and it shouldn't be cute.
Yeah. Yeah. The way you first see it hunched in that little like the tunnel or the duct, the sound design just cuts off. And then you have this moment to be, what the fuck is this shit? It's just like, yeah, it's great. It's a great reveal.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of foreshadowing as well. Like the whole thing about Romulus and Remus is like, I guess they didn't work the twin element into it that much, but there's like paintings on the walls of the ship that show like an infant suckling at a teat. And then that's kind of what it does to Kay as well. It's like, oh yeah, you don't like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I think this is like the Ridley Scott-ism of like because Ridley Scott is really good at doing like historical, depending on the movie that you're thinking
I
of.
haven't seen Napoleon, but yes, go on.
Yeah, it's the battle sequences are fine, but but he's good at he likes those large scale like historical fiction pieces. So you can kind of see a lot of that within like the franchise as well, and even in Covenant when like David basically executes Rome. Because the engineers are basically Romans at this point. And he's really good at that. And I think that's bled on through like most of the series. This kind of allusion to like the Roman mythology or that kind of thing. And like, Romulus and Remus. And yeah, I thought that was really cool. And it adds like this weird gothic aspect to the movie as well. Yeah. Especially when they come across that painting. It's quite creepy.
Yeah. Imagine going to work every day and seeing that shit, Tommy.
And seeing that, yeah. It's like, man, like you're like working for the company. It's like, so like, are we the bad guys? Like, nah. Fine. No, don't worry about it. It's all good. Nah, don't worry. We're just like,
can you keep harvesting the black goo for us from these demon nightmare spawn?
It's just like the start when like they first discover that like rock that has the alien in it. And they're just like standing, they're like just standing over it in like this like formation where it just looks super evil.
That's great. That was very 2001 Space Odyssey, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just the music as well. Yeah.
She does like kill the hybrid or the offspring as it's called.
Or she shoots it into space. It's probably not dead. The first alien didn't die from getting shot out of
the
space.
first alien didn't die. It's the perfect organism, like little oxygen. And it's just like fucking hell, man. This is fucking what a gangster, man, floating in space. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm the perfect organism. Yeah. But I think because it crashed into like that field, right? So it would have just been like,
yeah, you're right.
crumpled along with the, unless of course it's like the next movie, the perfect organism. We found the offspring, and now we fucked ourselves again. Yeah, it's just.
I think there's something satisfying about a bunch of corporates getting just absolutely wrecked by the very thing that they've tried to create.
yeah, it's cool.
There are a few of lines in this movie that really resonated to me as a company man. I'm afraid I have a new crime directive to do what's best for the company. Good shit.
Are you Ian Hov, Dad? Yeah. I guess I'm Andy then. I'm the dumbass, but then it's like, yeah. You've corrupted me. I'm afraid I have a new directive. It was best for the company. Yeah. It's great.
Good movie,
yeah.
man. Good movie.
Good movie. Yeah. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to watching it again. Yeah, I think I will probably. It's just good. Yeah, I guess we've been starved for like a good aliens content for a while. Go watch it in 4D. I'd say
Go watch
for sure.
Yeah, 4D experience. If there's one movie you watch in 4D this year, this is the one probably.
Yeah,
I reckon Furiosa might be alright in 4D as well. Actually,
yeah, Furiosa might have been alright. Maybe Borderlands.
Yeah, okay. Let's go spend $35 on Borderlands, Harvey.
I only spent $15 to go watch Romulus in 4D.
Nice.
On Tuesdays, it's Village, so it's half price Tuesdays. So it's like $15. I'm like, yeah. I went to a fucking cafe because I got there early. I spent more money on like the coffee and the cake that I had than the actual movie. It's just like, I'll just have a slice and a coffee. Yeah, that'll be $18. Like, what the fuck? It's like, god damn, man.
Capitalism's getting out of hand, Harvey. We're going to be working in the mines eventually.
Yeah. I'm afraid. Yeah, it's like
putting our bodies on the line for just a little bit of a chance at escaping. Oh, you reached the quota, did you? Oh, actually, there's a new quota now. So I'm going to be here for another 6 years. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. And it's like, the company thanks you for your service. Yeah, ooh,
that hits a bit too close to home.
Ooh, yeah. It's really, Aliens is great. I love it. Yeah.
All right, but what did you guys think of this movie? Did you enjoy it as much as we did? Did you guys watch it in 4D? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at TwoAsianBlokes to see what we're up to. Also, any trap lovers out there? Any manya lovers out there?
Any manya lovers out there? I'm sorry, like, to the team behind that movie, but
just do what Alien Romulus did, okay? Just do that.
Just have $80 million and like, you don't need 80 million. You can make a good low budget horror movie.
Yeah.
But we went the capitalist route, and we chose like the big budget film to talk about. Yeah. But it's just too good, man. It's just
too good. But anyway, I think that's it for us for now, guys. Catch you later.
Yeah, gotta go play Black Myth Wukong and try to find my way through because I don't have a map, so I'm lost. Been roaming around these fucking deserts for like 2 hours.
There's your anti-capitalist media right there, Tavi.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
CCP.
That's it right there. Woo, yeah, I love it. What I need, man. Fucking. All right, better stop before I get in trouble with both governments.
All right. See ya.
All right. See you guys.